I'm Kerry Rutishauser. I'm the principal of PSIS 126 MAT in Manhattan, and I was the principal that piloted Unison Reading and genre practice. What led us to do Unison Reading in our school were many things. First of all, kids were, we had a lot of low-level readers who were having trouble reading. They didn't want to read. They were really disengaged in reading. So one of the big problems we were noticing is they weren't independent. They weren't reading independently, they weren't interested, and they were faking their way through reading. That was one of the issues. The second issue is we had a lot of readers who just read through words and phrases and sentences and entire pages without really even know what's going on. But they created their own narrative. So we called it a parallel narrative. Their narrative was parallel to what was really happening in the story. So they were really tolerating confusion. So these are a lot of problems we were noticing. Even though our kids were getting guided reading every day in the balanced literacy approach, we had many readers who still were not understanding what was happening on the page. Even though we had a lot of kids who were reading at their level for so many years, we leveled kids, we were doing all the things, assessing them, but yet our kids still were not learning how to tackle text. So we had a lot of problems. In the reading workshop during the independent time, kids would sit there and read silently by themselves, so we really never knew what was going on in their heads, but we did know they weren't really comprehending what they were reading. The concept of Unison Reading was created by Cynthia, where the kids then would meet in a group and it would replace guided reading. They would meet in a group, it wouldn't be leveled, it would be based on interest. The kids would be able to pick text based on their own interest. So if they wanted to read Spider-Man magazine, then they'd post the chapter of a Spider-Man magazine that they want on the board, and other kids would sign up. And then that would be a place where kids could learn how to read the parts that they didn't know together. So, and with the teacher's help. And because so many of our kids tolerated confusion, our first big rule was we do not tolerate confusion. And in Unison Reading, the kids had to stop the group when they were confused. So that was big. It still is. It's the core behind Unison Reading. Like we celebrate, in a way, confusion. In other words, you have to stop the group when you have something to say, and especially when you're confused. So if it's a word you don't know, stop the group. If you can't pronounce it, stop the group. If you get lost, stop the group. If other people are reading too quickly, stop the group. If you can't remember what's going on, stop the group. Any reason, stop the group. So that's what we teach them. And that's how they learn to read, because they stop the group when they don't know what's going on, when that breach happens in their mind. See, when they were reading independently at the table, silently, which is what they were supposed to be doing as part of the balanced literacy approach, the only way we knew what was going on in their mind, and it wasn't even a really good assessment, is when we did running records and we could hear what they were reading. But still, when they're reading independently, we didn't know what they were understanding. But in Unison Reading, it's all out on the table. All the problems are thrown out there on the table. All the disjunctures that happen in the kids' minds are on the table, and then they're dealt with. And so we really teach to the point of need. And in Unison Reading, different from guided reading, is the needs come from the kids, and there are many teaching points in Unison Reading, because there may be as many as 20 and 15-minute sessions, depending on how many breaches there are. And all the breaches are taught into either by the kids in the group or the teacher. In guided reading, usually it's a teacher-led teaching point. You know, maybe there's one teaching point, but in Unison Reading there are many. So the kids really like it. The kids really like Unison Reading. One, because they can choose the text based on their own interests. It's things they want to read, topics they want to talk about, and that are meaningful to them, but they can read with their friends, which they do like to do, and they can help each other, which they actually like. And they also take leadership in Unison Reading, because in every group there's a group leader who starts the group. But then it's not just the leader who's the group leader who's the leader. Everybody takes leadership, because they have to stop the group when they don't know. And that's where agency and independence comes in, because now they're in charge of their own learning. It's up to them. They have to stop. Balanced literacy, when I came here, was a balance of the kids would have read aloud, they'd have shared reading, they'd have guided reading, independent reading, and so that's what balanced literacy was here. In other places, balanced literacy is a balance of phonics and comprehension work. For us, for Unison Reading, it is very much a balanced approach, in the sense that in Unison Reading, kids, again, going back to how do kids learn in Unison Reading, they learn at the point of their need. So if the breach is a phonics breach, then they learn phonics. I mean, so for instance, a lot of the breaching will be around words that they don't know. They can't pronounce it. So then they learn how to, phonetically decode the word together with the help of the teacher. Once they learn how to pronounce it, then they have to figure out the meaning of the word. And then they have to figure out the meaning of the word within the context. So it's all mixed together. There's the phonics and the comprehension, and it's woven into the context.